Hi! On the Woodpecker today, I'm making my second snowmobile trip of the season. And as you can see, this night we're passing through La Perce. I haven't been in my workshop much lately, for several reasons. One is that I've been helping out a bit with the construction of our daughter's house. Another one is that René and I spent a full 28 days at the cottage. And finally, I went on 2 big snowmobile trips with my brother-in-law. Our first one was around Lac Saint-Jean. I didn't film this trip, so as not to bore you, but I did take a few pictures here and there. Unlike me, Sylvain's done this trip before. We spent several days riding the trails. We rode the northernmost trail around the lake, the 29 Parallel Trail. To cross the streams and rivers, we had to use 7 footbridges. I took photos of them, which you can see along our route. We spent 6 days on our snowmobiles for this 180-kilometer trip. We also spent 4 nights at the cottage. During our trip, Sylvain suggested we snowmobile around the Gaspé Peninsula, another route he's familiar with. I loved this trip so much that I immediately said yes. So after spending 2 weeks at the cottage with René, I headed back to the Gaspé Peninsula. The most tedious part of the whole trip was the car journey. It took 6 hours to meet up with a former colleague who now works in Rimouski. The very next morning, we left the town of Montjoly. As you can see, we crossed several small footbridges along the way. Our first stop was Mont Saint-Pierre, which they call the Valley of Ghosts. The scenery here is incredible because there's frost everywhere. To get a better view, you had to climb this tower, which is also covered in frost. What you see is incredible. It's a shame it's snowing and the clouds are low because I really can't see very far. But it's still breathtaking. Even though it's beautiful, we have to keep on going. We crossed other footbridges. Sometimes it's bigger bridges that we have to cross, like this one. Snowmobiles and cars can cross it. This footbridge has a rather different design. What's different from our last trip is that here you can see the St. Lawrence River from the top of the mountains that are close to the river. Here the river is much wider than in Montreal. You can barely see the other side. When we get to Matane, I don't take any chances and film the plastic moose at the hotel. Even though Sylvain says he saw some on one of his trips, I don't expect to see any. High in the mountains, that day it was snowing lightly. Luckily, it was just a little. It's not pleasant when the weather is bad when you ride a snowmobile. This part of our trip is very beautiful because we're almost always close to the river. To fill up our snowmobiles, we have to go down the mountains and into the small villages. There isn't always a lighthouse in those villages, but La Marthe has one. I had to film it. There's been a lot of logging in these mountains. No trees means you can see the river everywhere. Okay, it's hard to miss. Along the trail, you can see rivers between the mountains flowing into the St. Lawrence. The villages nested between the mountains are quite unusual. It's definitely not the landscape I usually see close to home. Here at river level, you can't see the other side anymore because it's too wide. In fact, at this point, the other shore is more than 100 kilometers away. But we have to keep going because we haven't even covered half the distance yet. On the mountaintops, you often see winter bikes. In some places, there are many. It's hard to judge their size until you compare them to someone standing near their base. It's really impressive to see how big they are. But it's not hard to understand why they were erected there when you see how windy it is around here. All this blowing snow creates snow drifts. And because of that, Sylvain and Jean get stuck right in the trail. Getting Sylvain out was easy. But for Jean, it was another story. We had to use both snowmobiles to pull him out. By trying to get out of there by himself, he damaged the belt. We have to change it. Bah, it's not a big problem because we brought a few of them with us. All these problems meant we arrived at the hotel in the dark. Luckily, it only happened on that one day. The next day, we set off again toward Perce. And here it is, that famous rock. It's the first time I've seen it. After all, it's over 1,000 kilometers from where I live. In winter, the town is deserted, but during the summer, it's full of tourists. As impressive as the scenery is, we have to keep going. We're only halfway done. Every time I see an observation tower, I stop to admire the scenery. Here's the view from the top of the tower. Reaching Carleton-sur-Mer, I managed to capture a sunset. We're now on our last day of snowmobiling, which is a little bit sad. But our spirits lift up when we encounter two deer by the side of the trail. They're not the first ones we've seen during our trip, but they're the only ones that didn't run away at the sound of our snowmobiles. We pass back through La Rédemption and stop again at the observatory. This time it's less snowy and I can see farther. I hope I haven't bored you too much with these winter images, and I hope to see you again for another episode of The Woodpecker.